Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Thanks for being with us. Welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started here just shortly.
If you all wouldn't mind, I would love to know who's in the room, where you're from. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself in the chat, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's 12 o'clock on the dot. There might be a few stragglers coming in from the waiting room, but we have some housekeeping announcements before we dive in, so I'll take care of those. Just a couple reminders. This session is being recorded, as you probably noticed when you came into the room. It's going to be available by October 22nd, so check your email for those recordings. Also, Meg and I want to hear from you in the chat, so feel free to ask questions or comment in the chat box. We do ask you to keep yourself muted unless we ask for you to unmute, just to minimize background noise. And also keep an eye on the chat in the follow-up email that I send out for information about CEUs. We have several members of the DECA team here today to help you, so if you run into any tech issues, let us know. Crystal and Lori and Krista are here to help make sure that your virtual session runs smoothly as a participant. Those are all the announcements I have, so I'm going to get the screen shared here and we can dive right in to sources of strength in Douglas County. Meg, do you want to kick us off?
I was muted. Hi, everyone. I'm Meg Hassleman, and I am with the Kansas Suicide Prevention HQ. So we're located in Lawrence, but we do serve the entire state of Kansas in a variety of capacities. Probably most notably, we answer the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline for all 105 counties in Kansas. And we also do some training and consultation surrounding suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention across the state as well. Yeah, Lydia, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do at DECA?
Sure, yeah. My name is Lydia Fuqua. I'm a prevention specialist at DECA. For those of you who don't know, we're a nonprofit agency and we provide human services. Our goal is really to enrich and improve the quality of life for adults and youth and children. We provide a variety of services, including residential and outpatient behavioral health care, fostering and adoption services, family preservation services, traffic safety, and substance misuse prevention services for the state of Kansas. So we've been around for over 40 years and we have locations in Lawrence, the Kansas City area, Topeka, Wichita, Winfield, Pratt, Pittsburgh, Oklahoma, and even Iowa. My role at DECA is to, well, part of it is to engage youth in activities and initiatives related to substance misuse prevention and suicide prevention. So that's what brought me to Sources of Strength.
And to expand on that a little bit, before we dive into exactly what Sources of Strength is, we want to talk about how Sources came to Douglas County so that you all have an understanding of where this all evolved from. So in the 2018 to 2023 Douglas County Community Health Plan, they identified behavioral health as one of the priority issues. And there were several data points that really drove that priority to be of high priority, right? And so specifically related to this presentation and Sources of Strength in general, some of the information that drove this priority was that 1 in 5 middle school students report feeling sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks. and 5% of young adults have been diagnosed with serious mental illness in Douglas County. And these data were pulled from the KCTC data, the Kansas Communities That Care survey, that all 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders fill out in school. So really the goal of the county health plan is to move from crisis services as a reality to prevention services as a norm. And so Sources of Strength is a very robust prevention program. So it fits really nicely in with this priority that the county has set for youth prevention.
Thank you, Meg. And we'll talk a little bit later towards the end of the session about what schools have currently implementing in Douglas County and which ones are getting ready to onboard. So we'll talk through that as well. But we wanted to give you an overview of how this came to be first. And before we dive too much into the content of sources, we want to take some time to play a game, which might be a little bit unusual for some of you, but we hope that you'll embrace it a little bit, because a huge component, a huge piece of the Sources of Strength program is fun, is connection and relationship building and confidence building through the active fun. So I would invite you to turn your camera on if you feel comfortable. I promise this is a low stakes game. I'm not going to ask you to do too much. Yes, very exciting to see some faces pop on there. This is called thumbs up or thumbs down. Some of you may have played this before, especially if you've been in a session with Meg and I before. But I will name a topic and I want you to give me your opinion, either with a thumbs up, saying, heck yeah, I like it, or a thumbs down, no way. And if you're somewhere in the middle, you can do a middle thumbs up. That's okay too. So for example, if I say musicals, do I see thumbs up? Thumbs down, somewhere in the middle? Musicals. Ooh, I'm seeing some thumbs down, but a lot of thumbs up too. All right, all right. How about sour candy? Sour candy. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up, and I'm seeing reaction buttons too. Love that. Very good. How about snow? When appropriate, when it's cold and wintry outside. Ooh, we have some real snow haters in the house, and that's okay. That's all right. I kind of like snow to a point. How about scary movies? It is spooky season after all. Scary movies. Ooh, some folks indifferent. Some are like, heck no.
There's a lot of hate. Oh, Krista. All right. Krista,
yeah.
We'll have a movie night.
Yeah, we have a couple of scary movie fans. What about snakes, the animal? Snakes. Ooh, lots of thumbs downs on that one. I can relate to that. They're a little too slithery for me. How about going to the pool? Going to the pool. Ooh, some no's, some yeses, some kind of indifference. What about breakfast for dinner? Breakfast for dinner.
We had Brenner last night.
Love it. Love a good breakfast for dinner. Brenner. That's good. I'm gonna steal that. How about 3-day weekends? Who doesn't love a 3-day weekend?
I prefer a 4-day weekend.
Oh, I'd be down for that. 5-day even. Yeah. I saw all thumbs up on that one. We have won the game. All right. How about Crocs? Crocs, the shoes, not the animal. I saw some big thumbs downs. Like, no way. Okay, just a couple more. How about roller coasters? Okay, some pretty strong reactions there. I'm going to be in this category for sure. The last time I was on a roller coaster, I definitely cried. How about reading books? Reading books. Nice. Got some bookworms in the house. Very good. How about pineapple on pizza? Very controversial. Ooh, yeah, lots of thumbs down on that one. Couple thumbs up, so that's good. Okay, last one, sandals and socks. Hot topic.
It is like, I want to continue to wear my Birkenstocks into the fall. There's only one way to do that, y'all. You have to wear socks.
Socks. It's the only way. Very good. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for playing. That was lots of fun. Good to just relax a little bit and help build community, even in this virtual world. Okay, can you see my screen again?
Yes.
You think after 2 years in this virtual land, I wouldn't have to ask that, but I am, just to be
We all do. Yeah, we all do.
All right. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our objectives for today. So we want to walk you through an overview of Sources of Strength, which is an upstream suicide prevention program, and describe the benefits of implementing this program, especially as it relates to behavioral health here in Douglas County. And then we want to provide you with some information on the schools who are currently implementing the program and what's to come down the pipeline. So that's kind of our roadmap for today. Here's the Sources of Strength mission. You can read it, it's on the screen, but the model is really simple. So we take supportive adults and a diverse group of peer leaders in a school system or a youth group, and they utilize what we call strategic messaging campaigns, which we'll talk about what that is in a moment, to really promote a positive culture change in the school. And we have a nice little graphic that explains this a little bit better. The goal of Sources of Strength is really to reshape the way people think about whole health, mind, body, spirit. It's doing suicide prevention in a way that's life-giving and fun, and it's really asking the question, what are the leading causes of life? The model is really helping students develop tools to respond to stress and build resilience by asking them to think about and focus on their sources of strength, not necessarily minimizing the tough stuff that they go to, but how do we process that tough stuff and turn toward our sources of strength in our lives.
All right, so I'm going to ask for a show of hands or a show of reactions on Zoom. Who is familiar with what upstream prevention means? So we got some folks that are familiar with upstream. All right, well, to give a quick sort of picture of what upstream prevention is, I'm going to tell a short story. Some of you may have heard this story before, but it really paints a nice picture of the difference between prevention in general and upstream prevention. So there was once a woman who lived in a village, and that village was situated near a waterfall. And every day she would take a walk along the river's edge. She really enjoyed taking in the sights and hearing the sound of the water and all of those things. It was a great way for her to start her day. But on one particular day, she heard a shout coming from the water and saw someone caught up in the current headed towards the waterfall. And so she acted fast, right? She jumped in the water, she pulled this person to safety, and she felt really good about herself, right? She was proud that she saved this person and excited to share that news with the rest of the village. So the next day she's on her walk again, and she hears another shout. And she jumps into action again and pulls that person out of the water. But before she could even get the person fully out of the water, she heard another shout, right? And then another. And so it became so overwhelming that she had to start calling people from the village to help pull these people out of the water. So the village decided, let's train everyone in CPR. Let's build a watchtower and have somebody sit in the watchtower, right? So that they can keep track of if folks need help in the water. And then one day the woman was thinking, well, you know, we're doing all this work to help save these people, but what if we can find out why they're falling into the water in the first place, right? So she decides she's going to take off and go upstream. So she's walking upstream and everyone's yelling, where are you going? We need you. We can't do this without you. And she said, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to walk up the stream. I'm going to see what's going on. And so what happens is she walks upstream and she finds a place that has a really steep drop, right? And so it's easy for people to fall in, and they decided that they were going to build a caution fence so that folks didn't fall into the water in the first place. And so that's really what we mean by upstream, right? We're trying to build skills and teach youth about resilience and strength before a crisis happens, so that, you know, if a crisis does happen, they have the skills to navigate those rocky waters in a smoother way, right? In a way that feels life affirming for them. So that's exactly what Sources of Strength is. We're implementing these programs in middle school and high schools, and we're teaching youth skills and skills around communication and leadership and prevention. And we've seen a lot of positive impact. We know that youth that are involved in sources of strength are 4 times more likely to talk with an adult when they're struggling or when they're worried about a peer. And that's huge because we know that youth really prefer to talk to each other. And so anytime we can really promote that healthy help-seeking behavior, we know that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for prevention. So the, sources of strength, in the name, the word strength sits, and that really just captures that this program is focused on strength. And as Lydia said earlier, we're not avoiding the hard stuff. We're not shying away from having conversations about pain and about, traumatic experiences. But what we're really doing is trying to spend time identifying strengths that got them through these experiences, and what strengths can we work on building so that you have a more robust support system and skills and all of these things. So the program is run by peer leaders. So it is a peer-run program. The youth are the ones that are coming up with the strategic messaging campaigns, and we'll talk more about what that means. And they're the ones spreading the word and really recruiting and trying to promote a positive culture change within their school and community. And there are adult advisors as well who are really involved in helping to make sure that the youth feel supported in their initiatives, that they feel supported with their mental health, that they feel like they know who they can go to, right? These adult advisors are people in the school or community who have good relationships with youth. And so they work together, but the peers really do run the show, so to speak. And then data is used to inform the approach of sources, but it's also used to show that healing and resilience is absolutely possible, that people who've gone through really tough stuff can still cope, right, and have ways to get through adversity. And then the thing that really brings Lydia and I a lot of joy in this program is that the meetings really are 1 part fun, 1 part sharing, and 1 part planning. So we played that game earlier, and there's really no point to the game except to have fun. And I think that's part of what makes this program so special, is that we're using fun to make connection and make the youth feel more comfortable. So this is the wheel that the program is based off of. And this wheel has 8 strengths on it. You'll see family support, positive friends, mentors, healthy activities, generosity, spirituality, and physical and mental health. And the way that this wheel came to be was there was a group of creators for Sources of Strength who went into different communities. Most notably, they went into many Indigenous communities, and they asked, when you faced adversity, when you experienced trauma, what were the things that got you through it? How did you make it through? And the information that they collected resulted in these 8 strengths. And so essentially the long-term goal of Sources of Strength is, yes, to prevent suicide, but the midterm goal is to reduce isolation. It's to get youth talking about their strengths, and they can find things in common with others in the group or others in their community. So it's important to note that when we talk about these individual strengths, they're going to look different for every single youth. We don't anticipate that we're going to be able to talk about these things in one way and for it to be applicable to every single student. And so when we're teaching this wheel to the students, we ask for a ton of input. When we think about positive friends, what does that look like for you? Can you share a story that really shows a positive friendship that you have, right? We ask for feedback from youth so that they can hear different experiences and different perspectives. One thing that I really think is important to point out, because there's been questions in the past about the spirituality component. And, when some folks see the word spirituality, they may have one sort of picture in their mind of what that means. But in Sources of Strength, really the thing that they highlight is the word spirit. So, is there a place that you go that makes your spirit feel better? Is there people that you spend time with that make your spirit feel calm and safe? Are there practices that you participate in that that really make your spirit feel inspired, right? Like lots of different ways to think about spirituality. So it can be that some participate in going to a mosque or a temple or a church, right? There are so many different ways that folks express their spirituality, and we certainly don't want to be excluding anyone. So we like to hear from all of the students of what that looks like for them. For some, there isn't any sort of spiritual practice or place that they go. Rather, they can start practicing gratitude and thankfulness. So we talk about gratitude as a way to really make your spirit feel better, right? We know that if you practice thankfulness for 21 days, it can actually have a really powerful neurological impact on one's outlook on life. And so if this is something that one of the youth identifies as a strength that they want to grow in, right, then we might recommend keeping a gratitude journal or writing down 3 things a day that they feel grateful for. So essentially, we just want to really emphasize that all of these strengths are going to be individual to each particular student.
All right.
Oh, can I add one more thing? I'm so sorry.
Absolutely.
So during the training, we do several what we call laps around the wheel. And the first lap is where we really just talk about what those strengths are, and we get feedback from the youth, right? What does a positive mentor in your life look like? Or, have you experienced generosity lately? What did that look like? The second time we go around the lap, we talk about how one strength is not simply enough to get you through a tough time. You really might need multiple sources of those strengths. Not every single strength is going to be strong and sound at the same time. Sometimes you want to work and grow in other areas. Sometimes you feel really strong in certain areas. So we'll talk about ways that you can grow in these different areas. And then the last lap that we take is really talking about using the wheel as a personal tool. So we can check in with ourselves if we're experiencing an emotional struggle or a mental struggle, right? We can use that wheel to sort of determine what steps we need to take to start to feel better or get through this challenging time. And so the wheel is used as a great conversation tool, but it's also used as a check-in tool, which I think is a really powerful part of this program. Sorry, Lydia.
No, that's perfect. I'm glad you shared that, Meg. I think it's really a key component of the program is to understand how the wheel can be used to gain that strength in our own lives. So let's talk about what this looks like IRL, in real life, as far as the implementation cycle. So the first step for schools and/or programs, youth programs, would be to identify adult advisors to help guide the youth. We strongly recommend a process in which adults volunteer for the role instead of being assigned to it, because like Meg said, it is peer-led. So once the program is up and running, it's really up to the youth to take on the campaigns and the programming, but it does require passion and commitment from the adults who are helping guide the youth. So we do recommend a process in which adults volunteer for the role. It doesn't, a lot of times we think about those adult advisors being teachers or administrators, and that can certainly be the case. But the cool thing about sources of strength is it isn't limited to those options. It could be anyone within the school or within the community. A parent could volunteer for the role, or a bus driver, or someone who works in the lunchroom. So the biggest qualifier is just that passion and commitment to serve the young people in this strengths-based program. So you've got to identify your adult advisors. The next step for year one programs would be to nominate and recruit peer leaders. We recommend 20 to 35 peer leaders for the first go around, but obviously that's pretty dependent upon the individual program or school that this is getting up and running in. The main thing is we want youth who are diverse, with a higher level of buy-in or commitment to the program. So when we're thinking about diversity, we're kind of thinking about it in two different ways. Certainly in the traditional sense, race and ethnic identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic experience, grade level, those sorts of things are important to keep in mind when seeking peer leaders. But we also want to think about it in the social sense, right? We want to gather youth from all corners of the school, all cliques, all clubs, all groups should be represented in the program to make the program reflective of the student body, which in turn makes those activities more effective. So after you have your adult advisors and your peer leaders, then we train you up. So an adult advisor training can take place virtually or in person. We're super flexible with that. A virtual training is typically 3 hours. An in-person training is a little bit longer, anywhere from 4 to 6. There's some flexibility there. And what we do with the adult advisors is we provide an overview of sources of strength, similar to this one, but much more in depth. We talk a lot about the philosophy behind the program. We spend a lot of time on the sources model and dig into the strengths wheel. We go through the adult advisor expectations, and we talk through action steps and next steps. And then we also walk through the peer leader training because the adult advisors really help facilitate that training. So we walk through the activities and we talk through what they're going to be like and some tips and tricks to help keep the youth engaged. After that, programs and/or schools will hold a staff training, which lasts roughly 20 to 60 minutes. It covers the sources of strength program, components of a suicide prevention gatekeeper training, and specific school protocol regarding identifying and referring youth who exhibit suicidal behavior. We have examples of this training that we can provide. I say we, but of course I mean Meg, because she's the expert in the room. After the staff training, we then conduct the peer leader training. This one, again, can be virtual or in person. The virtual one runs about 2.5 hours. The in-person one can run anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. Again, there's flexibility, and it's set up similarly to the adult advisor training, but it's much more digestible and youth friendly. So we spend a lot of time talking about strengths and stressors in our lives and what we see around us and our peers. We dig into the strengths wheel, taking those laps, like Meg mentioned, to get a feel for how we can use those strengths, how we relate to those strengths personally in our lives, and how it's important that we have many strengths that we lean on, not just one. We play a lot of games, have a lot of fun, and then we talk about how it's going to work. How after the training is over, they're going to meet as a group and they're going to carry out strategic messaging campaigns, which I promise we'll get to what that is in a minute. After that, groups meet within 10 days of the peer leader training and continue to meet. We recommend at least twice a month for 30 minutes, but it's pretty flexible depending on what the group can do. So maybe it's once a month for an hour, or maybe 4 times a month for 30 minutes. So it's really at the discretion of the group. The goal is to complete the first messaging activity within 3 weeks, at least get the planning going. Ideally, when groups have been up and running longer than a year, they want to aim to complete 3 to 7 messaging campaigns to help reach the student body and sharing those messages of the sources of strength. And then you want to hold an end of the year celebration event to reflect and recognize and evaluate and celebrate the work that the young people have done. And then you start the cycle again. You evaluate the year and you begin recruiting and retaining returning peer leaders. So that's kind of how the implementation cycle works. A couple of additional pieces of information. We recommend a 1-to-10 ratio for adults to peer leaders to make sure that the youth are feeling supported and seen, and like they have trusted adults in the room that they can go to. One of the really cool things about sources, there's a million cool things. I think you'll hear Meg and I say that several times throughout this training because we think it's so cool. But one of the cool things that sources done is at the national level, they've developed several campaign templates. So if the young people are in their first year and they're kind of having a tricky time figuring out what they want to say or what's important to them or what they want to share with the student body, they have several templated structured campaigns that they could choose from to get them going. Certainly groups don't have to utilize those, but they're there as a resource if they need them. There are two campaigns in particular that they developed during COVID-19, which have been really popular among first-year implementation programs. The Trusted Adult campaign, which focuses on helping students identify, name, and connect to an adult they could go to if they were experiencing a difficult time or if a friend needed help. And then the What Helps Us campaign, which focuses on emotional regulation and what strengths help us to cope or manage our emotions in times of stress or difficulty. So the cool thing about these templated campaigns is they provide a calendar so you can plan out the action steps. They provide sort of a step-by-step how-to. What's the purpose of the campaign? What's the goal of the campaign? What tasks do we need to complete to implement the campaign? And then they also provide a variety of ideas, a variety of vehicles for how to get the message across to peers in the school. I think the most important thing to think about when talking about campaigns is not to get stuck on that idea of strategic messaging campaigns, because really it isn't about the campaign, the project, the activity. It's about allowing the students to internalize their own stories of strength. And these projects, these activities allow them to do that. So I think that's important to note. But let's talk through what the heck campaigns are, because I've mentioned it a million times, teasing you all about it. So let's show you what they look like in action.
So when we say strategic messaging campaign, what we're really talking about is using that wheel that I showed you earlier to sort of guide the way that the youth are putting out messages related to strength. And the one thing that I think is notable to mention is that in Sources of Strength, they really talk about using positive social norming techniques instead of, the sharing a sad or depressing statistic about suicide or substance misuse. They're saying, 1 in 10 students choose not to do this or whatever, right? They're highlighting that strength and that positive action over sort of those negative messages that you tend to see in the prevention world, or at least used to. So these are some examples of what the campaigns can look like. We think it's really helpful to see some tangible examples because when you hear that word campaign, like Lydia said, I think folks feel intimidated by that, but really it can be fairly simple. So these are, because of COVID-19, right, they've had to do a lot of adapting this program, and they've done a great job at doing that. And so these are some examples of what it can look like if your sources group is meeting virtually during the pandemic. So the first one that you see, the Let's Take a Look, they had the students go around their home and find things that represented each strength on the wheel and to post it on their social media story. And so that got a lot of students talking, right? Hey, what is this post that you made? I'm curious about that, right? And then it gives the students an opportunity to educate about sources of strength. So in turn, it's sort of a recruitment activity as well. And same goes for the middle, right? Post a picture of where you keep your strengths wheel. How are you reminded of these strengths every day? And then there's a option to do a virtual dinner party. And some groups have done, let's all make the same thing and get on Zoom after we cook and eat it together. Or let's cook something from our family tradition, our family history, and share what that meal is when we sit down to eat it. So there are lots of ways to kind of get the youth sharing about their own lives, their family history and tradition, and also just providing a space to connect. I'm sorry if you're hearing noises on my computer. I don't know why that's happening. Okay, go ahead and move forward. This is Lydia and I's #1 favorite.
Woo!
Scared me. #1 campaign to share about. And it had no part in this, but we were, it was one of the examples they shared in our training that we went through a couple of summers ago. So at this school, they had the Sources of Strength group set up a booth at the entrance of the school. So when students came in the school every morning, they had the students write on a strip of paper something they were grateful for or some sort of strength that they wanted to share. And then the Sources of Strength group then spent time putting this chain together and hanging them around the school. And what was supposed to be a 4 to 6 week campaign ended up being for the duration of the school year, because the school administration had noticed a huge change, a huge shift in the culture around the school. They noticed that students were being more compassionate and kinder to one another. And so they decided to keep them up. So something as simple as construction paper chains really impacted the culture. And I think that just speaks to the opportunity, right, to talk about strength and gratitude with your peers. There's a lot of power in storytelling and sharing. So these are some other examples of like how simple you can make a campaign. So the growing in our strengths is just like, what are some strengths that you're working to grow in, right? And let's make a cute succulent and put it on this bulletin board for the rest of the school to see. The one on the right-hand side with the decorated door was the students in the group decided to pick a few teachers around the school and decorate their door to show that they are a trusted teacher or a trusted adult in the school. So it really helps, build that connection between the students and the adults, but it can also send a message to other students who maybe aren't involved in the group, right? And they see this door is decorated and it says trusted teacher, and it might tell them, oh, this is someone I can go to if I need help, or this is someone I can go to if I'm interested in sources of strength. And so these little things that take just a little bit of time really can make such a big difference and make the students feel more connected to each other. And we know that when students and people in general feel connected, their risk for suicide, their risk for substance misuse, their risk for bullying, right? All of these risk factors start to decrease, because as human beings, we are hardwired to connect and to rely on one another. And then these are just some other examples of some virtual campaigns. The one that I want to highlight is the middle one. So this isn't necessarily a campaign, but it is a message that the Sources group put out on their social media to just say, hey, it's normal to feel these things, right? I think a lot of times we get that kind of toxic positivity messaging, right? Choose happiness, choose joy. And that doesn't always apply to every single student. Sometimes it's just nice and validating to see like it's okay to feel sad sometimes. And this is also a group that I can go to and I can talk about what's going on and I can ask for help and I can find ways to grow in my strengths. So I think that that's just one of the really cool components of Sources, is that they really choose to promote and sort of normalize mental health issues.
Thank you, Meg. If you can't tell by now, Meg and I are pretty passionate about this program. We've talked often about how we wish this was around when we were of this age, but we think it's really important for you all to hear from young people because we can sing its praises all day, but who really cares at the end of the day, because it's not for us, it's for them. So we wanted to show you this video. Let me see if I can get it to work here. I may have to pull it up. Sorry, I didn't do that beforehand, but we wanted to show you this video of young people sharing about the value of Sources in their life and what it's done for them. So let me share my video here and we'll be able to enjoy it after 4 seconds of this ad.
Sources of Strength is a life-changing program.
With Sources of Strength, our team has definitely had a great impact on our school.
I love Sources of Strength because all of their lessons, I believe, are applicable to our everyday lives. For example, when I'm sad, I know that positive energy and friends and mentors, they help me.
I love the fact that everyone here just talks to each other, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, background, anything. It's just open.
One thing that I really love about Sources of Strength is that there's an option for everyone. There's not just spirituality or just exercise or friends or family. There's something different for every kind of person.
I like the positivity, the atmosphere of being open with one another.
I like how Sources of Strength brings people together from all different areas of the school and just makes you more accepting to all kinds of people because everyone has a story.
There is a whole community out there that cares about everyone's mental well-being, and having a young generation of students who want to talk about mental health awareness is really powerful and inspiring.
During lunch, we would go sit with kids that we know maybe didn't have a lot of friends to talk to, or with new kids, we give them a tour and we're always telling them how we're there for them.
You're all working together for a common goal to help people out, no matter what their situation, kind of just putting yourself out there.
Not only are we working alone, but we're also working with older adults. We're working with law enforcement, teachers, parents, doctors. We're working with everybody. Even though it's targeted towards youth, we're using the whole community.
The kids that are struggling get that there are other kids in the school that want to help them and are there for them if they need it.
The best thing about that is being connected with each other and feeling like you're part of a family. And I know everyone here does feel like they have people around them, no matter who they are.
They definitely say it better than we ever could. I think it's really powerful to hear from the young people how the program impacts their life and how they find value in it. So we thought that video was important to share with you all. We're going to sort of switch gears now to talk through sources of strength implementation here in Douglas County. We have a lot of movement. We're really excited about all of the movement that's happening. You can see on the screen, currently 3 schools are implementing sources. Eudora High School is in their 2nd year implementing sources of strength. And then Lawrence High School and Free State High School are in their 1st year of implementation. Perry-LeCompton Middle School is in the process of implementing as well. We're actually training their adult advisors and peer leaders next week so they can get up and running. And then we're in the process of working with Baldwin High School, Baldwin Middle School, and Billy Mills Middle School currently to get them ready for implementation as well. And there's more schools in the pipeline, but currently this is what's on the docket. So lots of really exciting movement. We wanted to highlight the 3 schools that are currently implementing. They're doing really great work. First and foremost, we have Eudora. As we mentioned, they're a year 2 implementee. Is that a word? If it isn't, it is now. Last year, they had 52 students participate in the Sources of Strength program, and they were able to complete the What Helps Us campaign last year. The students, Ms. DeVoe, who is one of the adult advisors, shared that the students were really invested in Sources of Strength last year because there were no other groups meeting due to COVID-19. So the students and teachers were able to find time to meet more often and did have a little extra time to develop ideas together. So that was kind of a blessing in all of the messy, mucky stuff that came with COVID-19, was that Eudora High School was really able to focus in on sources of strength, which was pretty cool. Ms. DeVoe also mentioned that the one thing that everybody has participated in was a playlist that they developed on Spotify, which is pretty cool. I'll put the link in the chat here in a moment. The students all recommended music that helped them when they weren't feeling their best, and it was compiled into a playlist on Spotify, and then they used it for all of their background music during meetings, and they've shared it with a larger student body as well. So lots of cool things happening at Eudora. They also just completed a suicide prevention sidewalk chalk, which was in partnership with Kansas Suicide Prevention HQ. You might know somebody on this call related to them, Meg. So there's a video on Twitter that they shared, and I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. But lots of good momentum happening at Eudora.
One thing I wanted to add about Eudora too was during the training, I think Lydia mentioned it was a virtual training, and it was our first implementation in Douglas County. And so we didn't really know what to expect, but once we got on the call and did some breakout rooms, I started hearing from some of the students. And I had one student in particular say, I almost ditched this because I thought it was going to be lame. But I'm really glad that I decided to come, because I haven't been able to connect with anyone like this in such a long time. And it feels like such a good experience. And so that story has stuck with me, because I know that I truly can't imagine being in high school and living through a pandemic and missing out on those connections and stuff. So I just thought it was really neat that despite it being virtual, it was still a powerful experience for those students. Okay, so Free State High School is off to a really good start. They've decided to meet once a month for their meeting times. They have recently marched in their homecoming parade. They had their Sources of Strength banner. And then they also participated in the hashtag Let's Talk About Suicide Prevention campaign. And these are some of the messages that they wrote on the sidewalk around the school and community.
I think one of the things that's really exciting about Free State High School is this was our first in-person implementation, and it happened over the summer at the beginning of June. And so we weren't sure what to expect, when the fall came, but the momentum carried over from the summer, and they're really off to a strong start. So I think it's a testament to the power of Sources of Strength, and that it does pique the interest of young people, that it carried all the way through the summer. Not a lot of things do that.
That's true. That's really true. And then Lawrence High School started with a spreading the word campaign. So it was essentially to educate the rest of the student body about what Sources of Strength is. And I think it also acted as a recruitment activity as well. You can see on here that Audrey had created her photo illustration self-portrait based off of the knowledge that she learned in Sources of Strength. And it'll be introduced next semester. But her color-coded outlines, as you can see, it's kind of small on my screen at least, reflect the personal ways in which she found strength during the semester. And she put out a message that said, I hope everyone is able to chillax and reflect on the strengths that helped us make it through this year, right? So let's really focus on how did we get through this crazy time, right? This has been such as we've all heard 1 billion times, an unprecedented experience, right? And as a youth, like, what got us through this? How did we make it a positive experience, which I thought was really cool. And then Dr. Johnson, who's the Executive Director of Inclusion, Engagement, and Belonging for, I believe it's the Lawrence schools. She let us know that she's seen a really positive impact from Sources of Strength. And what she's seeing and what's happening with Lawrence High and Free State is that they are actually joining together to form a student-led mental health advisory committee, which is really incredible, because we know that 2 high schools in one town can mean rivalry and all of these things, but these groups of students want to come together and they want to work together, which is incredible. And it's exciting to, see where they're going to go and what kind of positive impact they can make in their schools and the community at large, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so cool to see how quickly and how much Sources can grow beyond even what we might have envisioned initially. So it's really cool to see the ideas that are sparked within the youth's brains, and how it can grow and expand and reach beyond the school walls or the organization's walls. The last thing we want to show you is just the Sources of Strength website, because even if you are not an educator or someone who works directly with youth, there are resources on this website for folks related to mental health and young people, but also there are lessons and takeaways for all of us here. So there's a lot of information about the program, the model, the team, the evidence base, of course, but then there are a ton of different resources that you can access here as well. So lots of things to to glean from the website if you're interested in learning more. Let me copy this and post it in the chat. This is a great resource to learn more about the program, and also get some tools for your own toolbox as well.
In closing, before we open up the floor for questions, I'm throwing a curveball at Lydia here. I would like, in the spirit of Sources of Strength, for all of you to share in the chat something that you're particularly grateful for today. And I'll share that I'm really grateful that 34 people from our community showed up to learn more about this program that Lydia and I are just so excited about and have seen such wonderful impact. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate your time and your curiosity around this program. And we will open up the floor for questions unless Lydia wants to share what she's grateful for.
I would love to. That was a really great curveball you threw. I love the idea of closing with gratitude. I'm really grateful for the young people of our community who are doing this incredible work. Meg and I are also sponsors for the Douglas County Youth Prevention team, and we met last night as a county, and I just feel really energized by the work that they're doing and really hopeful for the future. So I'm really grateful for the young people of our community. And with that, I'd love to see the gratitude happening in the chat as well, and we will open it up for any questions you might have. Actually, you know what, I do want to mention, I think we would be remiss not to mention that it is through the support of the county that we're able to implement Sources in Douglas County free of charge to the schools. So that's a really special thing that doesn't happen everywhere. There is a cost associated with Sources. After the initial onboarding, it's minimal, but there is a cost. But thankfully, we're very grateful for the county for providing the opportunity for us to be able to offer it to schools for free. So that's a really special thing that we have here in Douglas County.
Absolutely. Any questions or thoughts? You don't even have to have a question if you just want to share a thought. You know, I like to see the gratitude as well, Lydia. You know, even just seeing other people's makes me feel like I'm in a space of gratitude just in general. So thank you all so much for sharing. And also, if you do have some, oh, Lydia, wow, we're on the same page.
Did I read your mind?
Yes, we, if you have questions that you'd prefer to talk one-on-one about, Lydia posted our emails in the chat. And so you're welcome to reach out anytime. We are obviously very passionate about this program and happy to talk about it anytime.
Absolutely. All right. And with that, I guess we'll give you 9 minutes back in your day. Thank you all for being with us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
But don't forget to come back on Thursday for drug trends and prevention efforts in Douglas County.
That's right. Thank you, Crystal.